Hello class, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Thompson, teaching psychology of terrorism. I've been teaching this class for about a year and a half, and I'm excited to teach this class for you. I look forward to working with you and reading your papers, and hope I can offer some insights and answer some questions that you may have about the topic. I just want to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in Washington State, and I joined the Marine Corps in 1993. I was enlisted for about 6 years. I got selected for a commissioning program, and I went to the University of Washington where I studied. Um, it's a joint degree of criminal justice, sociology, and political science, and it was known as society and justice. After that, I got commissioned in the Marine Corps and went and spent about a year training in Virginia. And it was about 6 months of training and 6 months of waiting around, to be honest with you. After I graduated there, they sent me to Okinawa. And in Okinawa, I spent 3 years traveling around Southeast Asia doing counterterrorism work in the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Thailand, and Indonesia, and a lot of anti-terrorism work, physical security and law enforcement work in the Okinawa itself on a base called Camp Foster. After that, I got sent to what was called the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, and we immediately deployed. That's located in California, San Diego, California. And we immediately got deployed to Iraq. I was in Iraq for 2 tours with the Marine Expeditionary Unit, and including the battle for Najaf in 2004. After 2 tours in Iraq, I got selected and sent back to school again at the Expeditionary Warfare School in Quantico, Virginia. It's a year-long study on warfare and operations, some tactics, but mostly operational art. Basically land operations, big army, big marine, big moving pieces on a battlefield itself. That's kind of your first step up from working in a platoon and working in small unit leadership to larger scale maneuver operations. After that, I got selected to be the security officer at HMX-1, which is the Presidential Helicopter Squadron in Quantico, Virginia. And in that, I provided all the security for the hangars and everything located at Marine Corps facility in Quantico, but also every time the President flew overseas, and even in CONUS, we would send a detachment to provide security for his helicopters. And so I was fortunate, and I got to do a lot of traveling and work physical security and security vulnerability assessments in Europe and in Africa and in Asia, even visiting back down in Jakarta in Indonesia again for the third time. It was good to see some old faces down there. After HMX, I got pulled up to the Pentagon, where I worked on some warfighting law enforcement integration doctrine, where we built the new structure for the Marine Corps and the military police community as you see it today, where we have actual MP battalions, which is what we didn't have. The Army has them, and we call them law enforcement battalions. And the whole purpose of that is to integrate law enforcement capabilities, a set of capabilities that we possess that other warfighters do not possess, whether it be battlefield forensics, site exploitation, figuring out who built the bomb kind of thing, all the way to interrogating bad guys and getting information for prosecutorial elements later, not just prosecuting looking for targets on the battlefield, but prosecuting in a courtroom later, so that we can hold people accountable for the actions that they take. After I spent 2 years at the Pentagon working on the doctrine side, I got sent to Europe, and I spent 2 years in Germany as the anti-terrorism law enforcement integration officer at Marine Forces Europe in Stuttgart. And I lived there for 2 years. I was there with 2 of my kids. And I was single at the time, and that's where I met my wife, and we just had a baby boy last weekend. So, which is actually my excuse for why this video is tardy. I apologize for that, but we are getting a little bit of sleep. Excited about our boy. His name is Jonas Elias Thompson. And so after 2 years in Germany, I got to travel all over Europe we worked with host nations on their police capacity and also on law enforcement integration into their battlefield schematics, and also vulnerability and physical security assessments, and helping them build their infrastructure around their bases and so on. After Germany, I got sent to school again, and I spent a year at Command and Staff College, where we studied. Previously, we studied the operational art, and now at Command and Staff, we look more at operational art as it links and ties to strategy. And so you look at a lot of like wicked problems, operational design. My focus, you get to specialize a little bit while you're there. They have a master's program there, and what I specialized in there in the study was guerrilla warfare, counterterrorism tactics, and also an interesting course that I took while I was there was looking at guerrilla warfare or insurgency from the insurgent's perspective. And that was interesting. And you'll find as you go through this terrorism class, you'll ask yourself the question, and I've seen it frequently already, why is someone a terrorist? Because to them, they're probably not a terrorist. And so if you look at it through their eyes, there is some utility, and you'll find some usefulness in doing that. I'm not saying that they're right, certainly, but I think to understand the problem as a whole, if you look at it from their perspective, you'll find that you'll see other elements that you may not have seen if you just look at it through the lens of you and I as we sit here today. So I challenge you to do that as we go through the course. After Command and Staff, I went to be the police chief down at Marine Corps Station Yuma in Arizona, which is coincidentally where I got hooked up with NAU and started teaching. I had a great time in Yuma, and then after 2 years there, I got sent to be the Director of Security and Emergency Services, so they had a fire department underneath me up in Cherry Point, North Carolina. I was only there for about 2 months when I got notified that I was selected for command. So in June, I will be heading to Camp Lejeune, moving again, where I will take over the law enforcement battalion, which I helped create several years back while I was at the Pentagon. It's an honor to be able to move up to that. When I was a young PFC back in 1994, I was actually assigned to what used to be a company, and now it's a battalion, but that was the same unit that I was assigned to 22 years ago as the bottom guy, and now I will be the commanding officer of that unit. So it's a great honor, and I'm looking forward to it. That's, I guess, my career in a nutshell. If you look at my bio, you'll see that I have a couple degrees. I've got a master's in business. I also have a criminal justice degree, and then some certificates, one from the George C. Marshall School it's called Program on Terrorism and Security Studies, and it's in Garmisch, Germany. It's a wonderful course or group of section of courses that looks at terrorism today, modern events. You do look at some history, but it's really more about trying to come together and identify potential solutions to terrorism as we see it today. During that class, and I'll talk about this in another video lecture, but during that course, we had 70 students from over 40 different countries from all over the world. So imagine trying to, and I'll put this out here, I'll mention it again, but imagine trying to come up with a definition for a word like terrorism with 40 different nationalities. It's a challenge, and one that we didn't succeed. I'll tell you, we didn't succeed by the end of the coursework to come to a unanimous decision. And that's something we'll wrestle with in this course, is the definition. And why do we need a definition? And do we need a definition? At any rate, give you a little bit about who I am, let you know that I'm excited to teach the course. I've got a lot of background in the topic and a lot of real-world experience. I'll be the first to admit, like I said earlier, or like you might probably read in the intro, I'm more of a practitioner than an academic. But I think that my real-world experience, at least I would hope so, that my real-world experience will lean itself towards your education and make it give you more of a richer opportunity than you may have if you were just reading books and maybe somebody who just is mostly theoretical. And if you have questions, if you have real-world questions, you'd like to know about anything, any operations, whether it be Iraq or Western Europe or down in Africa or even Indonesia or Southeast Asia, which was a wonderful tour for me. Be happy to talk about it. I can give you real-world examples of things. But anyway, welcome to INT 340, and I look forward to getting to know you more, and we'll talk again soon.